Welcome to Americana Archives. Today's headline is The Prospector. The subheadline says, "Not one in 1,000 has the necessary qualifications." This article was written by Will Sparks and Ansleys. It says, "But if a man loves adventure, he can find nothing that will offer so much to satisfy his passion as a life of mining and prospecting. The prospector is the adventurer par excellence of the Rockies. From the moment he starts upon his career in the mountains, leaving behind him the collection of colorless and wind-beaten shanties known as the city, adventures greet him at every turn. As he picks his way through a wilderness of rocks and fallen trees, having left the meager trail far behind, ever on the lookout for a faint sign of the outcroppings of the precious metal, his passage is almost sure to be disputed by wild beasts. But what an excitement there is in seeking for gold! It is stronger and more intense than that of the gambler at the green table, staking his last dollar on the turn of a card. The prospector may be penniless, he may have put his last cent into the grub that is now fastened onto the back of his burro, yet one stroke of his pick is likely to uncover treasure that will transform him into a millionaire. He sits down to a meager meal, cooked over a rude fire between a few stones, and all the time feels about him the presence of gold. Perhaps his fire is built on the end of a ledge that is chock full of gold. Perhaps he is sitting on a rich outcropping that is simply covered with small stones. Perhaps there is gold beneath the big tree just across the ravine. Gold may be everywhere, if he can only find it. He must find it. Surely his luck is not less than other men's. And so he goes on, scaling the loftiest peaks, where snow lies all the year round, and even his heavy blankets are not sufficient to keep him warm at night. Driving into all sorts of caverns and rifts in the rock, exploring caves, only perhaps to be chased out by wild beast occupants, braying 1,000 dangers that he may find the means of passing the rest of his days in ease. And how does it all end? In most cases, the daring prospector who sets out alone meets his death miles and miles away from any human being. How, nobody ever knows. His bones may never be found. He disappears as completely as last winter's snow. But should the prospector strike it rich, his adventures will go on as long as he remains in the Rocky Mountains. If his find is worth anything as a poor man's claim, he will put up a rude cabin and go to digging, concealing what gold he takes out in a place secret to himself. But he will have to guard it all the time, for covetous miners who are not so fortunate would not hesitate to take his life if they could get possession of his little pile of yellow metal. His rifle must be his constant companion, and he must be ready to use it at the first sign. At night, he must sleep with one eye open. If a stranger approaches the cabin, he must be ready to dispute his right to be there. The few years a man may put in at this kind of life are most wearing, and should the prospector conquer all risk and get back to his native town with a pile, his friends will look upon him as an old man, though he is still under 40. Only the unknowing ones will envy his fortune. The man who works in the developed mines is also having adventurous experiences all the time. The tunnel shafts and drifts are liable at any moment to cave in and bury the worker under tons of rock. Or perhaps he may be imprisoned without food or water and pass many days of horrible suffering in darkness and silence. This story came from the great state of Utah, being reported in the Salt Lake Herald of October 7th, 1900. Thank you for joining us today. If you want to continue to uncover all of America's lost and forgotten history, then remember before you leave to hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and remember to like and comment below. And we will see you next time on Americana Archives.